got one signee already official today. What can you tell us about Khalees and what we can expect from her?
Well, it feels like this was a long time in the making. I think it's been since maybe her freshman year, that she's kind of been wanting to come here, and we certainly have seen enough of her over the last 4 years in high school, and she just continues to improve, and her athletic ability and her length and her on-ball defense and her ability to get to the basket. These are all things, and the big guard that obviously, we wanted to get a little bit quicker, and I think she's going to be perfect for us.
You like the first road trip of the year, Geno, just to find out a little bit about your team or have them bond a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, these trips always help you in some ways. If you win, great. It's the point of going down there. It serves a lot of other purposes as well, but you're playing a good team. Some of the younger guys have to learn. This is our travel routine. This is how we handle our business. So you're going to find out a lot about kids, and then we're right back at it. For a longer trip, in 2 weeks. So kind of that's what November's for too. You want to find out as much as you can in as many areas as you can.
Do you talk to Sarah at all and say, don't get caught up in the fact you're going home, you'll have a ton of friends and family there, or do you just trust that she's going to go out and handle her business?
I haven't said anything. I mean, I haven't even thought about it in that respect. Everybody reacts differently to these things. So far, she's not shown any signs of having anything kind of get in the way of what she's trying to do. So I just assume that she'll be fine. I'll probably say something. Go ahead.
What do you want to see from her and Jana and Ice, just knowing that they'll be going up against a little bit bigger of a team than they have so far?
Yeah, those guys are going to be under a lot of scrutiny, I would think, because we've talked about this in our staff meetings. They're going to be up against it whenever they face an experienced group of post players, because they have very little of it, the three of them combined. So again, all these things are good. You want to see how they react. You want to see how they compete. And hopefully, we can just keep getting them to understand it's more about them and what they do than as opposed to what the opponents are doing, and make progress. From wherever they were, first 2 games, make progress. That's about all you can expect at this point in the season.
When you got hired from Virginia, did you think, when I'm going to go back to ACC country, the chance to become tie the most wins in the history of college basketball?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out how to beat Providence and Villanova and BC. My focus was on let's not finish 8th or 9th in the Big East. Let these guys play in their first Big East tournament ever. This group. That's as far as I could think ahead. All this other stuff was that was somebody else's idea. That wasn't my idea.
What are you most proud of that you've accomplished?
I would say the longevity of it. How many iterations of leagues and all the changes that have happened in those 4 decades, and we've been able to adapt and be successful in all 4 of them. And maybe the fact that we started at ground zero, at nothing. We didn't have the advantages of location. We didn't have the advantages of the reputation of the school. We didn't have the luxury of a big-time league that could elevate us. We didn't have the luxury of facilities. We started at the absolute, ground level, and it's it's evolved into this. I would say that that's probably how long and where we came from. I would think those are the 2 biggest things.
Geno, when you look back to those early days, were there like a really important lesson or 2 that maybe you learned either through your own experiences or a lesson from someone you looked up to that helped you build and run a really successful program for years?
We made a lot of mistakes, I think, early on, like you would expect. We took some chances and on some kids. We got most of them right. We got some wrong. Learning how to deal with players that were left over from the previous coaching staff and how they interacted with the new players coming in. That was a real learning experience in terms of how to mix personalities. Fortunately, the one thing I think back is we were doing it in a space that no one cared about, so there wasn't a lot of explaining to do to anybody other than the players. But anytime I seemed like anytime I was stuck, anytime I was kind of in a quandary or loss, there always seemed to be fortuitous phone call or somebody that I was talking to that, from my past, that random, that we would talk about certain things, and that it would give me some direction and some way to see what the next steps could be and should be. And but any of those things that happened back then, CD and I just leaned on each other more than anything else. We really didn't have anybody else to lean on, and there weren't people just falling out of trees dying to help us. So we and then maybe that's the other thing. We did it under those circumstances where I don't think we were getting any help from anybody. Matter of fact, that some of the biggest battles we had to fight back in those days were right on this campus. But we managed. We persevered.
Who were the players who helped you kind of build the foundation? Was it, Carrie, or was it, Megan's class? What really kind of?
Well, I would say you'd have to, Kerry and Laura, certainly, and Laura being a Connecticut kid and being the kind of player that could help you in so many ways on the court. And Kerry being somewhat undervalued by a lot of the bigger schools that she ended up beating and helping us get to the Final Four. I would say those 2 and Chris Lamb probably got it going in the right direction. And when Megan's class came in, I think that was that was the finishing touch. That's what we needed. You know, we had Chris, who got us from, you know, last to not last. Then Kerry and Laura took us, and then when those guys came, they paired up with Kerry and Laura, and phew, you know, everything just took off from there.
I'm curious. I was asking KK. You go in there, you see the numbers of some of the greatest players that ever played here during Campbell. Do you ever take quiet time to walk in these arenas? Like, how the heck did all this happen?
I do think of it in those. You're in it so much, you know, that you probably don't stop to think about it as often as people think, because you're here every day and it becomes part of the furniture, like they say. You know, oh, there's a picture of one of the greatest players ever to play. Yeah, I know, I walk by it every day, and there's another one, and then there's another one, and there's another one, and there's another one. And after a while, you take it for granted, I think, sometimes, and you don't appreciate it until it's brought to your attention. And then you kind of think back, and it's so improbable, and it's so. And don't get me wrong, things like this have been done at other schools. You know, heck, when I was in the ACC, you know, North Carolina was famous for this stuff. But it evolved over a long period of time with numerous coaches. You know, and here it's been, you know, 4 decades with, you know, the same coaches. And maybe if a new coach walked in here and looked around, they would probably, you know, how am I going to build on this, you know? But fortunately, we didn't have any of those. And now I walk around, and you know, when there's nobody in the building, and how did we build this? Maybe the next person said, how do we build on this? So I walk around and go, how did we build this? Why? You know, why us? Why here? Why then? Why now? I don't have any answers for that.
So if you really tried hard to answer that, though, what would you say about why you've been good at what you do? Like, are there a couple things that you knew you would be good at as a leader, and things you've stuck to as a coach? What's made you unique, you know?
I think there's 2 things that CD, I think, being one. The fact that both of us are, I think, pretty good with people. And I think in this job, you have to be able to connect with all different kinds of people. And we did that early on, you know, and our approach hasn't changed in 40 years. So maybe that's why it's been able to be consistent, is that we've not changed the way we operate. You know, if you can close your eyes and go back to, you know, November of 1985, you would think what we're doing now is exactly the way we did it back then. Just doing it with different players, better players. But our road trips are still the same. Our pregame routine is still the same. Our film sessions are still the same. You know, nothing's changed, not one thing. And you know, that's once you have a routine and once it works, and you know, that the discipline of staying in that routine certainly builds confidence. And we don't change every year to chase the latest thing, you know.
It's just rotary dial, not iPhones.
Yeah, just even driving around campus, I am amazed at what's available now as opposed to what was available back then. You know, the environment back then as opposed to now. Again, in normal world, I would be, if I was standing here right now, I would be like coach number 4 or something like that. You know, that original me would have been here 10 years, let's say, going on. Another guy, another woman would come here and they do their thing and they leave, and then another one, and you know, so it's hard when, you know, there's so much there that you are trying to embrace. It's just a lot.
You've said in the past that you didn't expect to become the all-time wins leader. In fact, you told us you wouldn't become
Yeah.
the all-time wins leader. Is it kind of surreal to be in this position right now?
Everything is. For me, everything is. Yeah, you know, when I was 50 and I thought that 70 was old, I said I would never be coaching when I was 70. And now that I'm 70, I think of myself as just older, but not old yet. So, you know, perspective changes you a little bit. But at the same time, yeah, when I said that, I truly believed that that it wouldn't happen. That at some point I would, you know, I would just walk away and leave it as is, wherever it was. Things have a way of just happening. I think for you know, to like follow up on Mike's, you know, question. For me, I just kind of do what I do every day, and then I look back and here I am still doing it. So there's no, you know, see these upstairs this morning, you know, laying out the whole month of November and December and what we're doing, and I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out tomorrow. So that's how I do it. I don't have these long range plans like a lot of other people do.
Is it certain players that keeps you here, or is it just you wake up every day and you still have a joy for coaching? And so we're
Well, I
going
didn't say that. I didn't say I had a joy for coaching. You know what it does, I think, and this happens a lot. You get caught in a trap. You know, you keep saying, it happened to me at UVA a little bit, not quite like this, but a little bit, where you keep feeling this attachment to players, but if you're not careful, that's never going away. So what are you going to do? Stay here forever and, you know, die on the job? You know, if you allow your connection to your players to constantly dictate, then yeah, you're trapped here, or anywhere else for that matter, not just here. But that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. You really have to be strong and committed, and just cut the cord and say, I'm out. And I just haven't been able to do that for a variety of reasons. But yeah, there's always, you know, there's always a player. There's always a couple players that, if you're not careful, are gonna kind of capture you and you're stuck. And if you stay too long because of your loyalty to your players and you're not successful, then, you know, whether it's a coach, you know, in the pros, and you keep your players too long because you're loyal to them, and then all of a sudden it goes sideways, or whether, you know, you're just, yeah, you're too emotional and you let your emotions dictate.
Coach, how it works with you and CD, she's the planner, she plans the month, and then you just kind of go through it?
Oh, yeah. The planning, the regiment, yeah. I'm more of a, like, I need a plan. Like, what's the plan? Tell me the plan. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the best person to put that plan together, nor am I the best person for you to trust that I'm actually going to run that plan. You know, so I'm kind of, you know, the pebble in the water, you know, like ripples out from me, and I have no idea what it's going to be, what day or when. But if I didn't have a plan, it would.
So what would you do without her?
I don't know that I would have been able to be able to be this consistent, this long. I'm not making this up when I say this. When I was a kid, living at home, you always have rules, right? You always have boundaries. You always have, you know that it's always safe to go home. But when you're out and about, you just act like a kid. You do kid stuff, right? And to you, it's just a big game. Somebody else is back home making sure that everything's fine. I'm sure my kids were like that, knowing that, you know, Kathy and I were home. So I feel like here, having her and then Sarah since 1996, it's like home. And I just get to go out and play like a kid and do what I'd like to do. And come up with new ideas of how I want to coach this or coach that, or how I want to approach this or approach that. And they've allowed me to just kind of, you know, still be a kid and have fun doing it.
You've said it before, but your expectation coming here was you'd be here 3 or 4 years, right?
4, yeah, I gave it 4. Hey guys, I gave it 4. I figure if I can go through 4 years, we can go from last to 4th. You know, it's not like, you know, the league wasn't what it became. It was a lot more manageable that you could do that. And had Gamble not been built, it would have been impossible to stay beyond that Final Four year. Matter of fact, I don't know that we would ever have gone to the Final Four if we didn't already have that building in the mix. So, yeah, things had to happen, and that kept you here. And when I wanted to leave, nobody wanted me. When I didn't want to leave, a lot of people wanted me to leave. So my timing was never quite like I wanted it to be.
So one player question, what has Morgan brought on the court, but also on the bench and in the locker room?
Valley?
No, Morgan Chile.
Oh, Morgan Shelley? She's a different cat, man. She's a weirdo. Like, she's a perfectionist sort of kid, and she's missed so much practice, like September, big chunks of October, and you would think, man, this kid's gonna have a hard time catching up to anything that we're doing. And the minute you put her out there and practice with like the other guys, she fits right in and plays like she's been here 3 years and makes things happen, you know? So she gives us a luxury of a big guard or a small forward, you know? The kind of players that I really, really like, and she was exceptionally well coached in high school. You know, Sue Phillips did a fantastic job with her. Used to winning, and just knows how to play.
And that exuberance that she has, is that, I mean, you know, it's like you need somebody on the team who's like that. Right?
Yeah, you need a couple guys like that, and that's rare today too. Sometimes it's just fake and pretend, and you know, I think it comes from a natural place for her. It's just the way she is. She's got a great personality. So I'm anxious to see what she does when she gets more practice time. I mean, think about, we played 2 games. She's probably only practiced with us maybe 10 times max. So.
How
When
close?
we make you sit here and reflect on how you ended up here, and the consistent theme is you didn't expect to be here. So,
Right.
what did you want to be when you grew up?
Not this. I know that. Not this. I never had that as part of my wish list or anything like that. It's really improbable the way it came about, because when I was in school, I never really gave too much thought about the future. I just always knew that the future would take care of itself. I think maybe, coming over there with my mom when we were so young, there was so much uncertainty, like what's going to happen when we get there, how are we going to manage this, how are we going to figure things out, So I just kind of like, I'm not worried about it. Everything will take care of itself, when we got married, I had to borrow money from my sister to pay for the wedding. I had zero, and it didn't bother me. It really didn't. So I was never one to do stuff out of desperation so when I was in college, I did think that I would be working somewhere, somehow, doing something where it was going to be me and a bunch of people, and I had to figure out how to get my point across. So I knew that part. I knew that was going to happen. I just didn't know exactly. I guess today they would call it a consultant. That would be me. Just come in, hey, here's my ideas. Hope you got somebody that can execute these, because I'm out. That would be me.
How close are AZ and Yana to getting back?
AZ closer. Yana's doing everything except contact stuff right now. So she's come back pretty good. She's on her way. AZ's probably the closest. So I would expect that we would see her at some point soon. Don't get your hopes up. Not this Friday. So we take it game by game at this point.